All right, let's talk about something that I'm sure is on a lot of your minds. It's this complete paradox. We're seeing construction cranes everywhere, new buildings popping up left and right, but for some reason our rents just keep going up. How does that make any sense?
You've probably thought this exact thing, right? You're stuck in traffic, you look up, you see a new apartment tower going up, and you think, okay, great, more supply. That should mean prices come down. But they don't, and it's incredibly frustrating.
And you know what? You're not wrong. On the surface, it makes absolutely no sense at all. But the housing market, well, it has some hidden rules. Something's going on behind the scenes. So let's dive in and really unpack what's going on here.
Okay, the first and probably the biggest piece of this puzzle is what I like to call the great supply illusion. And it's all about the massive gap between seeing a building getting started and actually having a home you can rent.
Let's start with a term you hear all the time in the news, housing start. When reporters say housing starts are up, it sounds great. But a housing start literally just means a shovel has gone into the ground. It is not a home, it's not a vacant apartment, it's just the promise of a home, way, way off in the future. And just how far in the future are we talking? Well, a building that breaks ground today could easily take 1, 2, even 3 years before it's actually ready for someone to move in. You've got permits, approvals, delays, supply chain issues, all while the demand for a place to live is happening right now, today. And that right there is the fundamental problem. The demand, people needing a roof over their heads, that's instant pressure. But the supply, actually building that roof, is a super slow, multi-year process. And in that huge time lag, you have more and more people fighting over the same limited number of existing apartments. And what happens? Rents go up. But that time lag isn't even the whole story. This brings us to the second major issue, the mismatch problem. Because even when these shiny new buildings finally open their doors, are they even the kind of homes that most people are actually looking for? Well, if you look closely at what's being built, a huge chunk of it is high-end, premium stuff. Think smaller, luxury-style units in expensive buildings, because honestly, that's where the bigger profit margins are for developers. But where is the real demand? It's for affordable, mid-range rentals. It's for family-sized housing. And that stuff just isn't being built nearly as fast.
So this is so important. Just looking at the total number of new units being built can be really misleading. If the new supply doesn't actually match what people need and can afford, it's not going to relieve the pressure where it counts.
Okay, so let's talk about the sheer power of demand. I want you to picture the rental market like a big bucket. Construction, that slow trickle of supply, is the faucet pouring water in. But demand? Demand is a huge drain at the bottom, and right now it's pulling water out way faster than the faucet can fill it up. And in the last few years, we've had a perfect storm of things cranking that drain wide open. We've got population growth, more young people moving out and starting their own households, and this is a big one, insane home prices that are forcing tons of would-be buyers to stay in the rental market. All of this creates a demand surge that new construction just can't keep up with. And here's the hard data to prove it. A recent CMHC report put the national vacancy rate at a historic low of just 1.5%. Let me put that into perspective for you. That means for every 200 apartments out there, only 3 were empty and available to rent. That is an unbelievably tight market. So beyond the obvious supply and demand stuff, there are these kind of hidden financial forces making things worse. Let's talk about something you might not think affects your rent, but it totally does. Interest rates. It creates this really powerful and kind of vicious feedback loop. So step 1, interest rates go up, so mortgages get way more expensive. Step 2, that means fewer people can afford to actually buy a home. So step 3, where do they go? They have no choice but to stay in or go back to the rental market. And step 4, all those extra people competing for rentals drives demand and prices up for everybody.
And here's the other side of that coin. The developers building these new towers, they have to borrow billions of dollars to do it. And when interest rates are high, their loans are more expensive. So to make the math work, these new buildings have to open with higher rents right from the get-go. Okay, this brings us to something that I'm sure is super confusing. You might hear a news report that says rent growth is finally slowing down. But then you go online to look for an apartment and the prices are just eye-watering. So let's break down these two very different realities. What the news is usually talking about is average rent. That number lumps everyone together. including people who've been in the same apartment for 5, 10 years, paying a much cheaper, older rent. But what you experience when you have to move is market rent. That's the sticker price on the few vacant units available today. And believe me, that number is almost always way, way higher.
And this is the key takeaway here. Stabilization is not the same thing as affordability. Just because the speed of the increase is slowing down doesn't mean things are getting cheaper. Think about it. If your rent already shot up by 20% and then stabilized, well, it's still 20% higher than it was. Stabilization isn't relief. So as we start to put all these pieces together, what is the actual problem here? It's pretty clear by now that the answer is way more complicated than just, we need to build more.
The reality is, our housing crisis is all of these things at once. It's a timing problem because supply takes forever to catch up to demand. It's a massive demand problem, fueled by everything from population growth to interest rates. It's a big mismatch problem because we're not building enough of what people actually need. And really, when you get down to it, it's a system design problem.
And this is the fundamental truth of it all. Our current system works best. It's most profitable when vacancy rates are super low, when the market is tight. The system is designed to reward that tightness, not to create widespread affordability. And that is the heart of the paradox. So the pressure you're feeling as a renter isn't just in your head. It's a feature of this incredibly complex system. Real relief isn't going to come from a few new buildings. It's going to require supply to consistently and significantly outpace demand for years. Which leaves us with a really important question. What are the real signs of progress to look for? And how can you tell if your city is finally about to turn a corner?